Let me do that and that and that and say hello, everybody. Greetings. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It is, of course, the 1st of August, and a big weekend, too, because we have both Gencon going on and San Diego Comic-Con, which tends to be the bigger of the Comic-Cons for most of announcements and stuff like that. Granted, a lot more of that is non-tabletop, but a couple tabletop things end up over there because of the, stuff that mixes in with what you get at a Comic-Con sometimes. I'm sure if, the Marvel TTRPG would announce something, it would be at Comic-Con rather than at Gen Con. Well, probably both. They'd probably announce at Comic-Con and then also show stuff at Gen Con or something like that, That's weird it's the same weekend. I don't know if that's normal or if it's just happened to coincide this year.
That is a question.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah. When the two of them would have been last year. It's kind of like the thing. Again, it could just be coincidence that they ended up on the same weekend. Or they could be around the same weekend. Not sure.
They always occur around the same time, and they're not always on the same week. They're often one week and then the other. So it is pretty rare for them to be both back to back.
So, neat.
I mean, it makes sense. They literally would compete with each other at that point, so they probably don't want it. I don't actually know. They'd probably actually work around each other's schedules normally.
Yeah, because they are big cons. Granted, they are different types of cons, but still, big cons compete with each other no matter what.
There's
crossover.
Convention is. Yeah, I mean, especially when they're both in kind of the same general nerd community, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah. So I can see them definitely, it so happens to fall on the same weekend this year. So yeah, we'll go through it. We'll see. I got a deeper discussion topic. Whether or not we get to that or not is going to depend on how well all these things we talk about go through, and there will be a bunch of stuff probably from those two conventions we won't talk about today because they're not done. So, there could be announcements going on even as we speak that pertain to stuff. But it looks like some big stuff has already been thrown out there. So we'll get into it. But I guess we can start with how was your week, Wyrm? How did things go for you?
Fine. I'll go with fine.
It's a fine week for you.
Yeah, I mean, work's been very boring, and I've been using that to do. Let me put it this way: things are kind of uneventful. I'm kind of happy about that and for certain things, such as with my dad, has been pretty uneventful, and then with work, It's been kind of boring. I would like to do more. But with my boss being 88 and memory going and doesn't want to give it over to his son, which he really should, things are falling apart pretty hard at this point.
Well, again, hopefully things stabilize at some point then. Thumbs up on that.
Well, I have a guarantee, which is nice. I got a guarantee from my boss's son.
Okay.
And that is, I will, basically, if the company falls apart and he has to go start a new company, basically, he did say he will take me with him. So
he's basically at a point in time where he would like to take over the current business, but if things fall apart, his father doesn't let him inherit, he's ready to basically make his own version of the same thing, I'm assuming is what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because let me put it this way, the company will probably run out of money within a year if we don't actually change something. So
I understand these things.
But when I have to spend weeks of reminding him, it's so interesting just how bad his memory has gotten over the past year alone. And I had to spend an hour and a half to do a job that would have taken me 10 minutes on Monday. He was going to a meeting and he had to print out papers, and he was organizing them, and I had to keep reminding him which piles had which papers already. And it took what would have been 10 minutes to take an hour. It was real bad. It was really bad. I laugh, but I'm just smart.
what you gonna do? It's like this happens.
Yep. So there's nothing I can do at this point. You know, it's like. So.
It's what you gonna do. You know, if you missed yesterday, my week was eventful. Basically, I'll put it this way: the beginning of my week was me getting caught up and working on some things that were just some, you know, personal stuff, getting a little distracted, and a combo of that. I didn't get a lot done, but I was getting some stuff done, and I was like, it was like Tuesday evening, and I'm like, okay, we're finishing up the Tuesday evening game that I'm part of. I'm gonna, like, you know, get into some stuff here, and then like internet goes out, but it had been a storm, so I was like, oh, there's nothing going on, and I heard a noise that I thought was like, is that thunder, or like a thunder or something in the distance? You know, it was a loud noise, but it wasn't as loud as you'd think it would be, is what I'm going to say. But it sounded like it echoed close. So I'm like, maybe something fell down somewhere, and that's why internet came out. You know, some work crews will be out and fix it overnight. I did a whole bunch of stuff that I could do without that, you know? Some of the stuff I did was like, I read through the rest of the adventure for Shadows of Thassalon, the current one we're going to be doing. And got like most of that prepped up and ready. So, well, prepped up in my mind. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be done, like for the actual game, but like it won't be too bad for us running into it, you know. I also made a bunch of notes on like, which I did yesterday, on basically everybody's characters for like, you know, treasure. So I'm figuring out like where I want to put treasure and stuff now. You know, hey, something that, you know, I'm bad at. I was working on that. But anyway, turns out tree in my yard fell down into the internet, taking that out, and technically didn't take out the power. But I went through a whole rigmarole on Tuesday in order to get the internet back, we had to get someone from the electric company out, check on the wire, because the wire is also there. They basically said, hey, there's damage here. It's kind of like, maybe not like a miracle, but it's like, it's dangerous if we don't get this all repaired, basically is what they said. Which unfortunately also involved not them, because it wasn't necessarily the wire that was damaged, but the wire connects to the house. We need to get an electrician for that one, because they don't work on that. Then we had to get an electrician, get the electric company back out, and then it was even Thursday before we get the internet people out. So it was like 5 different sets of people we had to call out to get everything fixed up. It was a real big rigmarole. And then basically the rest of Thursday and into Friday, a lot of that was just playing catch up on things I needed to do, because it's I kind of said, it's like, normally when you know you're not going to have internet, you set up for stuff or you make plans for it or something like that. The other thing that I maybe could have done is gone out to places and worked off my phone. But the problem with having 5 people come out, I was the one meeting with those people. The internet's on my phone is kind of choppy at my house. You know, I go out somewhere where it's good signal, where I can work off of mobile data and stuff like that, you know? So I can't really work off my phone at my house, you know, with choppy internet. So it's like, oh, yeah, I couldn't do a lot for like 2 days. Not even on like just using my phone. So that was a lot of a chunk of my week. Yay. I did want to say, though I didn't like put it, you know, Momo, and usually I like watching the Acceptable Losses podcast. They did a really good thing that actually broke down and spoke about Werewolf and the tribes a lot better than I was thinking about. And here's the thing. They said something about 5e. 5e is an alternate reality, which is something that 5e Werewolf versus normal, all the other werewolves, where Vampire 5e is a continuation, because it is. Werewolf's an alternate timeline, because it is. It's an alternate timeline that takes a lot of cues from the Werewolf the Forsaken. So it's sort of like it's not even, but it's not Werewolf the Forsaken. It's something in between Werewolf the Forsaken and Werewolf the Apocalypse. So it's just so weird that they did that completely, you know? And yeah. I thought about that, and I'm like, oh yeah, it really is. It's
who said this?
It was the podcast that I watched, Acceptable Losses.
Okay.
Momo watches it too.
Okay.
Momo is on their Patreon, so it gets it like a week early. But like they basically do like major breakdowns of like lore stuff into it. They don't do deep dives because I'm more of like a deep dive kind of person, but they'll like, so they basically did an entire thing where they went over a basic kind of overview of all the, you know, werewolf tribes, like spending like, you know, 5 minutes on each of them, kind of like introducing you to them and stuff like that. But their discussion and the breaking down between the editions it was such a fascinating one that it was something that like maybe I should have thought about, but I never like it's like until someone says something sometimes you don't think about it. Whereas like, oh yeah, no, this is like just an alternate dimension timeline, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's what all the new versions, like all the new lore swaps have been anyway.
Like,
you know, like Werewolf the Forsaken.
Yeah, but that's the problem is like the other two 5e games in White World of Darkness could be continuations. Hunter, though it's a different story, could very easily be a continuation of the old World of Darkness. Vampire is a continuation of the story. So that's why it's kind of confusing why, you know, they chose a continuation one point and didn't another, you know. Because then are they saying their version of Vampire? Because I also don't know how compatible the current World of Darkness stuff is. That's a good question too. Because I know the old ones, they're semi-compatible. You could technically play them together, but you know, I don't know. We'll talk more about some World of Darkness with the 6e and etc. announcements from Gen Con, but you know, it was just some thoughts that came to mind, you know, that drove me in directions that I hadn't thought about, you know. It's like when someone, again, it's that entire thing of sometimes you need someone from the, you know, someone else to like say something and you're like, oh yeah, that's neat. Got me thinking about it. Can we dive into our topics unless we got something else to talk about? If there's something else interesting in there.
No, the only thing I've been doing other than related RPG related, other than working on Fist of the Ruby Phoenix live stream material, is listening to RPG horror stories. But probably not the place to talk about those. Those get weird.
Yeah. Multiverse stuff. God, I hope they don't go into like a weird multiverse route with the entire thing because they are creating a multiverse. Like I was okay with, you know, Chronicles and Old World and those being the two different ones we had, you know, because they tried the reset. As I've always said, I liked some of Chronicles. I didn't like some other parts of Chronicles. It was a mixed bag for me for the switch over, you know, lore, because again, it's just an entirely new world. And then they came back and did both of them, and I was like, okay, that's cool. You know, different types of worlds, different types of systems, slightly different ways. I thought that was a neat when they did both of them, honestly. But now, like, we got a third with the werewolf one. I don't know. Weird. Let's talk about our topics.
Okay.
So we now know that we're getting a revised of the 4th edition of Gurps. So it's nothing new technically. It's technically not a new edition. The rules are new. It's basically they are taking and like putting out a base set that's kind of like put together in a different way than they've done it before. The different rules and stuff, you know, organized in a way that's probably a little bit more for modern sensibilities. It's the same edition, just reorganized, basically. So information will probably presented in a different way that's maybe a little bit better than it was back in 2004, I think they said this was originally out in. 2004.
Makes sense.
So, yes. And it's 592 pages. So it's a big old book. And it combines a couple of their different original.
I was about to say, it probably combines a number of, like, what were considered, like, go-to supplements, I would assume.
Yeah. So, you know, this is good because Gurps has always been one of those weird kind of side patterns, and it's having something that's a little combination of a little bit of everything to get you. It's a better starting point for getting into Gurps, I think, which is good. So, and again, no new rules. So if you have your old rules, you don't really need this if you already know Gurps. But if you want to get into Gurps now, this is a good point in time to get to it. You know, a gigantic, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Book. Yeah. Okay. So it includes 2 books. Gurps. Okay. Well, it includes the basic Gurps rules.
The tools needed,
characters
tool
and campaigns, and
characters
so it's combining.
Okay, it's campaigns. So they needed characters and campaigns in the original one.
Yeah, they had 2 books, and now they combine them.
Yeah. So, yeah, they basically took the 2 books you needed in 2004, combined them together, and reorganized them in a way that works for consistency and erratas and stuff like that. So,
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. So that's the Gurps thing.
So it's basically 2 books in one.
Yeah. We do have from Gencon a little bit more information on the new editions of the One Ring and stuff like that. There's an article about it, and I'll put the Freely Press a little thing about that. Some expansions and the new things, and their digital platform that they're also coming out with. Basically, they announced a bunch of stuff related to the One Ring, and what's coming out for that in the future. So, yes, September should be the backer kit for the new edition, but they do have some core expansions to the core rules that are still coming out in the meantime. So, yes, we're getting them revised, but they're basically still putting out some of like their world building stuff for Lord of the Rings in between there, which will probably still be mostly usable in the new edition. I'm assuming because most of the stuff is like, most of their expansions are just world building stuff. And they might have rules for compatibility and stuff like that. Kind of like the stuff that came out at the back end of like the Star Trek RPG first edition before second edition technically is pretty compatible with the second edition. It's just, you have to remember that it is. So Brotherwise is expanding on their Plotwise RPG with a couple of partnerships and a contest. It looks like they've kind of announced coming up here too. So yeah, this is basically their system that goes with Cosmere. So it's the base system they're using for Cosmere, but they're expanding it, I guess, into some other different settings and stuff too. It looks like Earthborn Rangers is going to be a setting that like was working with another company that did the board game version of that, and another genre hopping one called Infinite. So basically they have their system which they use for Cosmere, and they're basically partnering with some other people to use this system for some other games. Cool. We know about some like base systems that are used. Hey, I'm looking at you, the D20 system and how many places it shows up in. Yes. So cool.
And someone who worked on Eberron is going to help them.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So yeah, they're going to be doing an open alpha for the base system and having a new fantasy system called Erstwhile with it. So I assume basically what they've done is taken their system in Cosmere, pulled it out as a base system, and they're going to be putting out probably like a general book along with the new fantasy setting that we're going to be seeing, and then they're working with these other ones for more stuff in the future. So cool. I didn't put this with the D&D news because it's kind of D&D news, but it's also kind of not because it's more information on what's going on with Joe Manganiello. Because we know he's working on like some like clothing lines and stuff like that. But we now know the entire core of this was... And we knew the core of this was basically he was going to be coming out with his own version of a setting along this entire thing. And now we know what the setting is. It's like a weird post-apocalyptic Outer Planes D&D setting where demons win the blood wars, and apparently the Lady of Pain just annihilates a bunch of the outer planes and inner planes just to like save the multiverse, which is kind of weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lady of Pain is very weird.
Yeah, and I guess we're at the point of Sigil, like I'm like I don't. Feels different than what Joe.
Supposed to be that strong though.
Yeah. Yeah, the outer
but I
planes.
guess she could have gotten power.
The idea is the demons once swarmed over the hells. They had their chance, and the outer planes were overrun. Sigil remained. Basically, Lady Pain annihilated that. Oh, and herself. Oh, so she sacrificed herself.
That makes sense.
So all the inner planes are back to one single world. Some gods and demons managed to escape. And basically it's I guess chaos because there are no outer planes. There's only one like inner plane, and what the hell effects would that have on the material plane? They would have effects. I guess is what it would be.
It
I assume.
would. Funny enough, I mean, technically the inner planes already kind of are amalgamed a bit, but
Yeah.
in a weird, like, four-dimensional way.
Yeah. It seems like
So
an
I can see that
interesting
being
idea.
weird if they go go three-dimensional.
It does seem like an interesting kind of world setting. So I'm curious how they'll explore it and do stuff with it. You know, that's what I'll
Sounds
say.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's not copying and pasting. We're also getting a new RPG from Green Ronin Press. They're bringing us Nobunaga's Black Castle. Well, they're publishing it, which is compatible. It's a Morkborg game, so it's compatible with that. So it's like Pirate Borg and all those other. Well, except this one's not called a Borg, but it's Morkborg compatible. It's
Borgs are
Sengoku.
getting so popular. I should try them.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of compatible things with them. I think Pirate Borg was one of those big spin-offs of them. It's one of the major ones. But
well, yeah, but I feel like there's a lot of like people who aren't them making stuff. Like Pirate Borg was made by the same company who made Morkborg.
Yeah.
Whereas this is not. It's just compatible with it.
Yeah, they're using its base system, and they call it a Sengoku Doom Metal Fantasy, which it's weird. I'll take it. I guess they're going like a little bit of Sengoku fantasy Japanese style, but adding in like a probably dark monster flair or something like that. Just by looking at some of the artwork and stuff. So it seems interesting. Oh, they are doing a little bit of Unimusho though too, because that entire thing was that Nobunaga and his forces were ending up with demons and stuff like that, and it seems like there's some demon stuff going on here too. Because I think in the first game you do fight Nobunaga ascended to a demon or something like that. Look, Onimusha is weird, and I have never played them, but I've seen someone play through them, and then I watched some lore videos in the years interim. I think they played 2. I think a friend of mine was playing 2 and I was hanging around. So yeah. Oh, and cool. Your characters that are out for vengeance because Nobunaga killed you, sent you to hell, and you've come back to defeat him. Neat. Interesting. So that's that game series. Our good friends at our Calculum, who normally bring us Cyberpunk related stuff, is bringing us dinosaurs this time. A little bit of a different flair for them. Fossilized Violence. They introduced at Gen Con.
Honestly, is it just you play as dinosaurs? Because that actually sounds kind of cool.
Okay, so technically speaking, you are playing as people, but basically it's a supercontinent where you're like basically early people fighting against like super dinosaurs that are evolving. Interesting.
So I just had a flashback to some like a comic I read one time that was like, I don't ever read like I don't read like real comics. I read comics, web comics.
Yeah.
And there was one about dinosaurs. I'm like, and this just, I don't know, the style brought me back to that, and my brain went, I kind of hope it's like that, because that's a very cool idea. But I could also see that being kind of flat potentially.
Yeah. It does look interesting. I feel like my comparison in my brain is like Turok Dinosaur Hunter minus the sci-fi aspects of that series, when it's just the surviving against dinosaurs and stuff like that. But there's a continent and stuff like that. And it does seem like, hey, it has since 28 distinct critical injury tables and 1 super critical modifier table. Man, maybe I should suggest Joe that he goes to like injury tables or something like that rather than hit chart. I don't know, for his game. Makes me think of that.
I mean, I think the hit chart,
it's not bad, but it's hard to.
I mean, to be fair, the fact that like you instantly get debuffed when you get hit, and the fact that getting hit is just like a 1 in 10 chance at level 1, meaning you're just like whoever hits first basically snowballs. Sounds like it'll be a problem.
Yeah.
That I can see from a mile away, and he just doesn't believe me when I tell him this.
Look, we've talked about like things to refine it over the years. He's got stubbornness in him. He has improved.
he has improved it.
I think he hasn't tested
And
the
I
new
even-
improvement. That's why I think it's hard to get him. Like,
He is, yeah, he's getting kind of like stuck about improving it more because he's all like, oh well, I had this idea, I think it'll work, I want to test it, and I'm like, okay.
he needs to test a lot of stuff to get the improvements. I think if like, because this again, like this is what his like Mark III hit chart or something like that, and I think like figuring out a way to walk away from that would be hard or something like that. Anyway, you know.
I don't mind the hit chart. I just don't like the fact that you get hit like once and automatically get debuffs, I think. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So no matter when you get hit, you're going to start getting debuffs, and that can just snowball real fast.
Yeah. I can see that as a problem. I'll just finish up this other one and we'll turn it over to you. I put it a little out of my order here. We talked about it before a couple of times, that they were going to be doing a Ghost in the Shell RPG. I think it's not the first one they've done, but it's the latest one. You know, classic cyberpunk anime, based more, I think, on the movies rather than the animated TV, the anime TV series that came out afterwards. The original movie back in like the 90s, I think it was. It was the original Ghost in the Shell, and the manga based, but it's up on back now. So if you're interested in it, sorry, I just didn't press enter. Well, my brain was trying to like figure that out, and I didn't press enter.
I can't comment unless I have details.
So yeah, definitely funded because again, this is classic anime cyberpunk kind of thing from that time period.
Oh yeah, it's that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, this is very much, you know, what it means to
I've
be
heard
human
of this
and
anime.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Heard of this anime. I don't watch anime, so.
yeah. This is like one of those ones that, like, if you're talking about things that are more sci-fi cyberpunky from like the 90s, you talk about Ghost of the Shell, you talk about Akira. Those are like the two big ones you kind of throw out there. So, and you know, they've done a lot of like spin-offs, like redos, you know, things that are based more on different sections of the manga and the story and stuff over the years, but this feels like it's based more on the original stuff, you know, from back in that time period, rather than the new material that's come out since then. So cool. You had 2 books that you got.
Yeah, I can talk about them. So these got released 2 days ago officially. Got this, which got some green on it, so you're getting some green screen. But yeah, it's. I feel like there's a lot less that's different here. Like they do have the Magus, which doesn't have schools anymore. Yeah, I mean, basically it's just getting rid of schools on all the spells. It's like the real difference.
Yeah.
They did add some new spells. There's some new stuff sprinkled in here. Plus the new Necromancer, which is a neat class. That one honestly seems kind of fun to try.
Okay.
And the also, oh gosh, I didn't and the so the Return of the Magus and Summoner, and then the Runesmith and Necromancer are new. The Necromancer is kind of neat because you can basically just keep summoning creatures for basically as much as you need. But
you mean Summoner, because it was Magus and Summoner. Right?
No, Necromancer.
Necromancer
summoning
keeps
little
summoning.
undead.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can actually get a pretty sizable army. They don't really do shit, which is how it's balanced. Basically, they all have 1 HP. But yeah, it seems like the downside is you need to build up because, like, I'm trying to remember how it works. I brought it over. Where is that? Yeah, but it looks cool, basically. But I probably shouldn't go too deep into it anyway. Runesmith, I didn't look as closely at the Runesmith. Didn't interest me as much. But yeah, they can, like, enchant stuff. Apparently there's one thing that looks kind of broken. Maybe. Although that was on the play. Never mind, I'm thinking of something from the playtest. Maybe they fixed it, I don't know. But the Summoner, they didn't fix. It's still kind of trash, at least comparatively to other minion-based classes.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
Yeah. you know, there's definitely some new archetypes. I didn't go through and figure out which ones were the new ones. I think Living Nexus is new. That sounds new, and so does Soul Forger. No, Soul Forger is not new. I've seen that picture before. Maybe Veil Dancer. Anyway, I don't remember. The problem with this book is that there is a lot of old stuff. That's probably my big complaint with this book, is that I'd probably say about 70% of it is old.
Okay. A lot of stuff.
They did try and include, yeah, a lot of, like, I don't mind it as much, because, I mean, it kind of was expected to be so. But, like, with Guns and Gears, it was entirely rehashed. You didn't need a new book. With, so if you had the old one. With Dark Archives, it was completely the same. You didn't need to get the book if you didn't want to buy it again. This one, they have new stuff with a lot of old stuff, which is what I consider kind of hard to, you know, it kind of makes it a lot less appealing to buy.
Well, yeah, I guess it's like the thing of, like, at very least for like Gears of Guns and the other ones, you know, yes, it's a lot of old stuff, but it's also like stuff that if you are updating to the remaster, the revised, you know, you have to kind of maybe get some of those things. Like if you want to play a lot of Gunslinger.
That's the thing. Like, you can just have the book and know to look things up if you want to. Like, that's the thing. Is like everything's on Archives of Methods anyway.
Yeah.
But the lore doesn't change, you know, like the fluff and the flavor.
Okay.
Whereas this, with new classes, new stuff, like there is new stuff here, which is what's hard, you know. Like, if because like the new mechanics for the remaster is on Archives or Demiplane or wherever you want to go, but the fluff is the same, with maybe some name changes. But that's you know, again, just remaster stuff. So it's like your old book should be fine. Anyway, that's the only problem I have with this. I don't think it's bad. I like Paizo's, at least, you know, again, if even the new stuff is free.
What's the Arcane School section on 108, 109?
Let me look. I think that's just new. If I'm 108, 109, if I recall, it's new.
I can see the
schools for I think it's new schools for wizards. If I recall, Arcane schools. Yeah, the new schools for wizards.
Okay, so they give wizards some more stuff then too. Okay.
Yeah. So it's new wizard schools.
I guess it's the entire thing of like they want wizards to have a lot of that flavor they used to have with a lot of the options they did have, but it's kind of taking time.
Well, you got to remember that like when they changed from remaster, or when they changed to remaster, they went from you can pick anything from these schools from this entire school of magic to, you know, your school now gives you a single spell at each level that you can prepare for free.
Yeah.
So it really it did nerf their variety. So they really have to make it up for by providing a lot more and giving more options for people. But
yeah.
So that's what those are. Is they're basically the wizard's subclass feature, if you want to consider it that.
So spells, some of which might be new, some of which may be renamed, some of which are just, you know, rehashes, and same with magic items.
They still have not redone Mirror Image. I actually looked for that. I was curious if they did that. That's the one where I'm all like, it was such a confusing spell that I'm not surprised they're kind of just leaving it out. But no, they did not redo that one yet.
Basically, when it came to 2E, they like made a version of it, but it was kind of weird, and they're like, "Look, let's just not."
I mean, it had the whole, you know, roll a die, and if it's a this, you hit this thing, and it's like, you know, it's a lot to keep track of. And I know they were trying to simplify things, but I kind of expected them to make a version of it still, even if it was just like increases your AC by 2 or something, you know, and it or increases it by like 5 and it decreases every time you're attacked or something, you know. You know, it could have been something weird like that, like a really big bonus that kind of waned or something. You know? But anyway,
and then the other book
next is Absalom Station. It's a Starfinder. And it's just a lore book mostly. It's basically just a setting guide to the Absalom Station.
Which is
like a lot. Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you don't know, it's basically where Galarian once stood. The entire thing about Starfinders, two things happened. There's a mysterious century. Was it a century, or is it a little longer than that?
Well, I think it's about a century. I don't think
Where people
for
don't know what
certain.
happened, and during that time period, Galarian disappeared. No one knows where it went. The entire planet gone. You know, it just disappeared. So you know, it's like an entire
And
century.
It's called the Gap.
It's like an entire century. No one remembers. The entire planet's gone, and Absalom Station just sits there, right where, like, right next to, because the station would have probably been orbiting Galarian. You know, at one point in time. Now it just orbits the star there. You know.
Yep.
Granted, this was post when, like, you know, most of Galarian went to the stars, so it's like, you know, you don't have to worry about if you're other species and stuff too. It's just, you know, a lot of bastions are like in weird places throughout the solar system of Galarian. So like along some of the other planets you might show up and stuff like that too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, are the traces new or old?
I do think it's funny. There are a few places where there are like fake pixel art. I can show this off. It looks like pixel art at first glance, but if you look closely, it's not. Which
Interesting.
I find amusing to me. Like it's got clean lines in certain places. Anyway, I just found that funny as someone who likes pixel art. Yeah, so Absalom Station's interesting. They go into like some of the cultures and stuff of each of the districts. I forget how many districts there are. Wait, there are a few districts. There's like a water district for like the water creatures and a bunch of weird stuff too. Apparently there was like some kind of the water district actually interested me because apparently someone summoned like some weird extraplanar beings into the middle of it at one point. And so there's a whole like destroyed section because of that. Yeah, the Bloomgate incident. Let's see what it's called. Bloomgate. Yeah, the puddles is that section, and it's what do they call it? Like, I saw the word Bloomgate. I know that's what it was, but what do they call it? Anyway, I'm gonna call it the Bloomgate incident.
Yeah.
It's just called the Bloomgate. Anyway, oh, and the gate's still there. It's just
yeah.
But anyway,
Cool.
I mean, yeah, they do also have, I will say, 2 new races in the back.
Yeah, I looked them up. Noir is the Noir is basically one that was in Interstellar Species, has come back for second edition now, and the Garfanoids weren't playable in first edition. They were an alien species from one of the Alien books, but wasn't playable. Now you can play them. That's cool. So
yeah, they're little trash snails.
Yeah, so we brought back an older one and brought back the trash snails now that you can play them now instead of just, you know, fighting maybe against or countering them.
The other ones are like minotaurs with like weird genetic mutations that could give them extra horns.
Yeah.
Other than that, something I didn't realize is that apparently Absalom Station is powered by the Starstone, the thing that turns people into gods in Pathfinder.
Yeah, it's something that like as soon as you mention it, like, oh yeah, I remember that, but it's like something I forget too because it's like the God Stone, which could make mortals into gods, powers a space station. It explains why it's so powerful and why it like survives because it has like a divine core to your power source.
Yeah. Apparently, you can still go in and do a trial.
You can still try to become a god.
Yeah. But you have to get past all of the like automated support and people who like there's basically a bunch of automated creatures that automatons that keep it active and going that are like super high level that like you'd have to get past to try and do the challenge. No one known has done the challenge. They also theorize that someone doing the challenge would like redirect so much power away from the station to where it would like shut down the whole station.
Sounds like a problem. So I guess that's why they would keep them out anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a giant map.
Cool. Nice. It's an interesting kind of like setting piece. You know, again, I like a lot of stuff about Starfinder that makes it very interesting. I know.
Yeah, no, I love that they run super hard into the fantasy side of science fantasy. I feel like it's super rare to see that.
Yeah.
It's more like fantasy sci-fi than sci-fantasy, and I love that.
Yes, it's a different direction that I think works very well, because it's basically saying, well, what if we had a fantasy setting and it became sci-fi, rather than what if a sci-fi setting but also some fantasy, you know?
Yeah. I mean, most like the prominent opposite is Shadowrun. You know, like that's the one that's like a normal thing that became that normal sci-fi that became fantasy.
Anyways, I'd also kind of put that like Star Wars would be like that. There is like fantasy stuff there, but it's more sci-fi first, fantasy second, you know.
Yeah, it's got a soft fantasy system. Yeah.
Yeah, not as heavy as
The Force is magic. People don't think about that, but it really is if you really break it down.
It's not quite as heavy as something like Shadowrun there, but it is another like popular system where you can kind of call it a sci fantasy. It's more on the sci side, just kind of like Shadowrun is too. But yeah.
Yep.
Shall we get into the mess of what was announced at Gen Con?
Yeah, sure.
There's 3 groups of these. I put these into the companies: Wizards, Whitewolf, and Paizo. Let's start with Wizards. So I'm going to say this first here. This is something that like I saw someone talking about this mention that Wizards presented this as Universes Beyond for D&D, which sounds terrible.
Yep,
Yep. But
it doesn't bother me as much.
I think same, but for 2 reasons. For one, I think TTRPGs are settings that are more compatible with each other. You're using a system with that instead of like that. It's about different worlds that can be anything. The amount of times we've seen 5e shoehorned into as a system into so many places, it's fine. You know, it's just, you know, a lot of those places are now official here, being done by Wizards.
Already, like, in my opinion, your worlds are already cobbled together things. You often will take third-party content. I mean, you homebrew, you take third-party content. There's lots of things. So it doesn't bother me for them creating settings for third-party content, basically, for Wizard, for, you know, because no one's forcing you to play with it.
And they don't...
Unlike Magic, where you are literally forced to play with it.
If you want to keep up with any metas and any of the kind of tournament scenes, you have to keep up with it, where this here, you can use whatever you want. They don't have to layer. You know, and here's the other thing, too. World of Warcraft, Dark Sun, well, Dark Sun is its own thing, but World of Warcraft and Star Wars, which I talk about, back in 3.5, both of them had crossovers with D&D. So these are old things that we've done before, you know, in D&D. It's not something new for either of these. I forgot about the D&D Warcraft book from that time period until someone, like, I saw a picture of it. I'm like, oh yeah, that existed. I remember the Star Wars stuff from back in that day. I forgot the World of Warcraft stuff or the Warcraft stuff. So this is stuff that's happened before for these two. So them coming back isn't a surprise in many ways, you know. And again, if they do new ones and different ones, I think it's like the fine place to do it. If you want to do Universe Beyond, do it with D&D. It's the fine place to do it. You know, it's the better place to do it because you have it's just an option you don't need to use, as you said. So I've got a bunch of different like articles here. So we'll start with, and we do know that they've said at very least Dark Sun is going to be mature rated. They've said
yes.
So that's already putting me higher stands. Here's the thing that I'm going to say this here. If they at least meet 4th edition Dark Sun, I'll be fine with it. 4th edition Dark Sun has its problems. It's kind of watered down. It's not perfect, but it's still a very dark setting with a lot of dark themes that they do decently in 4th edition. Not perfectly. If it's basically on par with that level, I'm going to be fine with it. You know, it's not great. It's not the true spirit. It's not the best spirit in comparison to what was in AD&D when it comes to a lot of the settings and stories that are being told. You know, again, 4th edition was a little watered down, but I think overall it should be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't think it's gonna have the same heart as Dark Sun should. Like, it definitely sounds like they're going more for the violence factor than they are for like the actual like political commentary, which Dark Sun is supposed to be about.
It's supposed to have environmental and political messages, you know.
Yeah. They could totally do the environmental messages. I just don't think they'll do the political messages because the political messages are big companies can be terrible, or big groups can be terrible. But the environmental message of don't ruin the planet, I'm pretty sure wizards can get behind. They're not that bad when it comes to that side of things.
Yeah.
So that might be a thing. So they might have one aspect, but I have a feeling based on what I've seen of it that they're going a lot more for like the gore and shock factor almost,
Yeah.
which I only worry about in the sense of like it might give some, especially listening to a bunch of RPG horror stories lately, it might give some people encouragement to be bad at a table, you know?
It's the thing of like, I think we always talked about it, how like you have to be ready for mature stories and have to have people that are willing to go with it. Dark Sun is a brutal system with a lot of dark and mature themes. You have to have people that are ready to play with it. Now, granted, how well you dive into that world's themes is up to you. You can just basically pussyfoot around them, so to say, that entire like, tiptoe around them very easily.
Mm-hmm.
You could just do you're a group of people in Dark Sun. The entire point is to go to some ruins and raid them for some treasure. Make your life better.
That's the thing. Like, you could definitely do more of an environment. Like, if you wanted to do Dark Sun and liked it for the environmentalism storytelling, you could actually take out a lot of the brutality and go for that.
Yeah. And deal with the Defiler spellcasters and try to fight against them, and maybe joining with the groups that are either the I can't remember, the resistance movement or the like preservers, and help them and stuff like that. There are stories you can tell there, or there's against the sorcerer kings, defying them and stuff like that with the resistance movement. There are different levels and different types of stories. There's exploring a broken world. There's stories like of survival and trying to find a place that's a lot better. Because, there are places that are a little bit more environmentally sound than the tier region. Most of them have other horrible things going on there. It's I enjoy talking about the Crimson Savannah. Crimson Savannah is a horrible place with giant carnivorous insects, beasts there, and grass that just cuts you, that you have to have like armor on at all times in order to survive, along with a brutal species of Thrykeen that just basically see all humanoids as either slaves, meat, or worse, playthings, because you aren't there. It's basically the worst parts of the African savannah. Try surviving there. Sure, you might find some water. It's worse in other ways,
Yeah. But overall, I'm just not that, like, I don't think it'll be that bad. I could see them handling it poorly.
Yeah.
And if they are trying to make it like dark and gritty and violent, I don't think they're going to do it in a way that, like, they might not do it in a way that's tactful, especially, but at least they can kind of be a little bit weirder because they are putting content warnings, which is good. I'm actually happy that they're not trying to tone it down for general audiences. It just depends on what audiences they target with a book like this.
Here's the thing, is that like D&D certainly can be family friendly, but there is plenty of an audience that would eat up and more adult and more, gritty, extreme kind of thing. I can see that definitely having its place, and being successful. I'm just, again, I have a lot of questions about it. It's them. They're coming in a direction and saying stuff in a way that at least that says like, okay, I'm listening. That's where I'm at. You haven't turned me off from you. You haven't pulled a Planescape. You haven't pulled a Spelljammer yet with me. You've said some stuff that's more akin to a Ravenloft with me, where it's like I have arguments for and against stuff with Ravenloft, but otherwise I do think they play Ravenloft pretty decently, when they do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're coming at me from a Ravenloft direction. Good on you.
Mm-hmm.
Then of course the Warcraft.
They have
stuff.
World of Warcraft. Yeah. So this is, and I actually do like that they're starting with a fantasy setting as their like universes beyond, because I honestly think we need more, and they did kind of imply that they are going to do a lot more fantasy. Okay, actually, here's one thing that I found crazy. They're going to start getting third-party publishers involved in writing setting books. Did you hear about this?
I didn't hear about that part of it.
Yeah. So, and for example, I think, oh gosh, I might be misremembering, but like they're going like so the Dark Sun basically they're saying like we want to give a lot more support to our official settings, such as Dark Sun. That's why we're putting out a Dark Sun book. But we also want to do Universes Beyond kind of stuff. But they talked about how they even are working with Kobold Press to put out, I think it's a Greyhawk book. So I think that's cool, you know. But that's like a, you know, down the line. But they're going to be doing stuff like that.
Yeah. It does look like they're doing like skins and like, you know, updates for a lot of classes, for species, a lot of new species. Like, again, I feel like, again, this is a lot of options, and if you want to have a similar species or use similar versions of classes in your games, you probably can, and stuff like that.
Oh, sorry, they're going to be doing Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
As Kobold Press.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So Kobold Press is going to be putting out more Forgotten Realms stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the Warcraft stuff. Bunch of new stuff there. Again, it's very fantasy. So
okay, I actually found a link. I'm gonna post this.
For sure. Cool.
This is this is Thursday.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, Dungeons and Dragons announces third-party partners to bring official support to popular campaign settings.
I missed this one.
Yeah. So yeah, they're so Ghostfire Gaming, Visionary Productions Design, and Kobold Press are getting in on this. I've heard of Ghostfire Gaming and Kobold Press. Visionary Products and Design I have not heard of, but you know, you can't hear of everyone.
Yeah.
And the idea is to put out adventures in these settings to kind of keep them alive more.
Okay, so Visionary Products and Designs were makers of the Exploring Eberron.
Okay.
So they've already worked on some Eberron-related stuff, it seems like. And now it's more an official partnership rather than like a one-off kind of thing, it sounds like.
Yeah. So,
I
think it's cool.
Yeah, adventures and anthologies and stuff like that for these worlds. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're going to be like semi-official, or they're going to be official products.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I actually do find it cool. I'm actually surprised that they're working with Kobold Press. Because of the fact that Kobold Press turned around and made Tales of the Valiant when the OGL debacle happened. I kind of thought they might wean away from a partnership with them, but no, apparently, and I'm actually, you know, apparently they're still totally willing. So I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
They're not holding it against Kobold Press, at least not too crazily.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though I would argue that Tales of the Valiant is probably slightly better.
I took a few more of these pages I forgot to put out. So let
me put it this way. I actually think it's worth taking Tales of the Valiant Ranger, and even some of the ideas they have in Tales of the Valiant are better, like the multiple level 10 boons and stuff. Anyway, I can go on about it. Rather than, you know, you can basically, there's a lot more variation within a single class than 5e or 5.5e.
Yeah. So, what do I do here? Let's see here. What else do we got here? We know there is the Star Wars thing that's coming out in 2027. That's their or Season of Rebellion, they're calling it. Because we can see from the entire thing here, it's going to be Season of Champions, which we're getting out after the Season of Magic with Arcana Unleashed, which will have the Warcraft book. Then Dark Sun's going to be in the first part of next year, with Greyhawk stuff being in the second part. And
that's where I heard about Greyhawk. Okay.
Yeah. I'll get to the Greyhawk book here. There's a Greyhawk book that they have on their list here. Yeah, Return to Legend table. Yeah, they're working with you know, people for looks like for Greyhawk, Dragonlance, and Legends of Dritz, and so like Forgotten Realms stuff.
Oh yeah,
too.
Gygax is leading a book development for Melf's Guide to Greyhawk.
They're working with Tracy Hickman for Dragonlance and R.A. Salvador for stuff related to Dritz, it looks like. For Greyhawk, we're getting Crown of the Witch Queen, which I'm showing off the image over there. That's a full-length book in there, which I think is going to be in their Greyhawk season. And of
full-length
course,
adventure.
yeah. They're doing more group finding on D&D Beyond. Hey, that's probably good for that actually to be useful. And a better mobile app for D&D Beyond. Hey, that's also already useful.
I did hear about that. Apparently, the D&D Beyond is terrible on phone right now.
Yeah.
Although, okay, something I did hear, and I'm actually curious about your thoughts on this. They're not planning to make character sheets accessible through the app. Yeah, I heard someone saying I wouldn't use it on the app anyway because it'd be too small. But I'm like, I don't know. I feel like being able to like pull out your phone and look up your stats would be nice, but that's just me, maybe.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement of that one. So that's kind of an interesting direction to go. Huh.
I feel like there's a way to do that, but I can kind of understand why they wouldn't because I feel like it would be kind of hard to navigate that. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting.
So,
but yeah, having an app that actually works would be nice.
Okay, so that's interesting. We've so for Warlock, the video game that's coming up, we now know that the Warlock patron will be Fey patronage, and it's going to be Tasha. The Astra. It looks like Maggie Robertson will be doing stuff for Tasha. I know the name. I can't remember what they do. I'm bad with names to people.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything.
Well, no, Maggie Robinson. I mean.
Oh, Maggie Robinson.
I know the name.
I was like, how do you not know
Tasha?
I'm like, how do you
no,
not
Maggie
know
Robinson. Yeah. So yeah, that apparently the first look at that will actually be at Gamescom on August 25th. So we'll actually see something on that soon. So that's cool. We won't have to wait very long to know more about that. Let's see here. And that's kind of most of what they've thrown out there for now. There's a lot of the big kind of stuff that we've learned about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've stagnated real hard after the 5.5 release. I mean, like, the books they put out have been very, like, on the lower end of good, if that. So people are kind of excited to hear that they are working on things. It doesn't surprise me, though, because they have had to work with full new teams of lead designers and stuff after, Chris Perkins and all those other people left.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious, did Chris Perkins ever talk about what happened at D&D?
No, and I don't think he can for quite a while. I think he's probably under a...
NDA'd, yeah.
Yeah, NDA'd, so he probably won't be able to talk about things for years. Probably there will be a point in time he can, but, but here's the thing. Knowing Chris Perkins and how things left, I assume there will be like a level of negativity, but he probably would spin it in a very positive way. I'm going to assume.
Oh yeah, no, he's not a negative person. I just kind of feel like I wouldn't be surprised if he was kind of pushed out.
Yeah. Speaking although of losing someone, the current president of Wizards of the Coast is stepping down. To put on a thing on this, John Haidt, who's only been there for 2 years. And was working and was one of the video game people at Blizzard, and was helping boost their video game studios and stuff like that. Basically, he's going to be stepping away from his role into an advisory role as of September 1st. Interesting. Okay. I'm not going to lie. I can see this because a lot of as you just said, there was a stagnation, at least in the, D&D side of things. Very hard. Sort of like Magic,
okay,
you can't screw up. With what they're doing, it's hard to screw what they're doing in Magic up. I don't like it. It's
hard to screw over the sunk cost fallacy that Magic has ingrained in so many people.
Yes. Yes, I don't like where Magic is going, but where it's at, I understand. It's really hard to screw that up when it comes to looking at what Hasbro was, basically.
Honestly, I'm not surprised, though, if, because they've been pushing for video game stuff. I actually heard a really good explanation from basically there's an interview with someone, I forget who it was, talking about how they didn't like how this thing worked in Baldur's Gate and they were changing the spell for the 5/4/5 because of it. or 5.5e because of it.
Yeah.
And like if you look at the spell, it's more of a video gamey mechanic thing. Like the spell itself worked the same either way, either wording. And so it's just kind of like there's definitely this focus on making 5.5e video game friendly, that they definitely didn't talk about. And that was kind of like the little argument of the video I saw. But if you really look into their video game stuff, I don't know if you noticed this, but like 80% of the stuff that they've tried to do video game wise has fallen through in the past year, if you really dig into it.
Yeah.
It's bad. So I'm not surprised that someone who was supposed to be in charge of this literally just got basically told to step down.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, like, like it sounds like Warlock is the closest one to actually coming out at this point in time. I don't know much about how Exodus is doing, though. Though last we heard, I think
Exodus should come out. Yeah, Exodus should come out.
So, like,
but that's the thing.
Two of all the projects are coming out.
Yeah, 2 of what I'm pretty sure was more than 10 I heard about.
Yeah, it was like it might have been like even like a
not to mention all of the the VTT they tried to do that's supposed to be built on a video game and that kind of stuff.
Again, like, I had my misgivings about the VTT and the way they were going to use it, but I didn't say it was a bad idea. That's the thing. It's like
No, I actually think there's some real potential there, but it feels like it just was like they just didn't know how to handle it properly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just feel like every other day, like I heard like we're trying this new video game, and I'm just like, okay, and then like a month later, this video game is now canceled. Cool,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To be fair, I feel like that kind of stuff happens all the time, but I feel like the problem they were having is they kept announcing it to try and hype it up before they got it like settled.
Yes.
That's what it felt like.
There are a lot of projects that get canceled video game wise before they get off the ground. Same like with TVs and movies and stuff like that. That's why, like, sometimes people will announce it's in development. The words in development means we're looking into making it. We might make it. We might not. At very least, that's what you have to understand. And the thing is,
usually you want to have things more set in stone before you make an announcement, though. Yeah. Even then,
well, it's like side tangent here because I did hear about it. The Warcraft series that Henry Cavill's been in the executive producer for forever, the 40K series, finally got a writer that's like written some stuff that like Games Workshop's going to look at.
Yeah,
finally.
You meant Warhammer. Got it.
I'm sorry, I said Warcraft. Yeah, because Warcraft because of D&D. I thought it Warhammer 40K. Yeah. Sorry, brain. Brain bad. But yeah, but that's like something that's been in the zeitgeist for years now. And it's sort of like now they're having something solid. It took them this long.
Yeah. And that's very much one of those things where they probably announced it way too early to try and hype it up, and that's honestly having some backlash. You really need the hype point really needs to be narrowed down a lot more, and I feel like that is definitely an example of the hype point being shoved way too soon because they thought things would move faster. Mm-hmm. But with D&D video games, I feel like they've just been announcing it just to build hype without ever planning to like follow through. And it's kind of hurting, I think, D&D, which again, is why they're probably asking this guy to step down.
Ooh. Yeah. Yep. So, one final thing, and this came out of Comic-Con, actually. We know more about what's going on with the Honor Among Thieves sequel. It probably won't happen. There's a chance it still could happen, but it's probably not. Basically, it's hard to get the funding. The movie was financially successful, but barely. 205 million gross over 105 million budget. That might mean it also lost money because of possibly how much they spent on advertisements. But I'm going to tell you this here. I don't think they spent that much on advertisements. There were some, but I feel like there wasn't that much spent on it in comparison to a lot of movies.
That's kind of the problem is like they spent... from what I heard, I remember hearing that they really screwed the pooch on the marketing budget because, I remember something about this a while back where it's all like a normal movie can spend almost half of its budget on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And like Honor Among Thieves just did like, it was like 10% of its budget on marketing.
So if it was 10% of its budget on marketing, then yeah, that would have been, they would have still made money, but it's not a lot of money,
Yeah. So it was just like, but that's the thing, like, well, and I'm saying, and it's not because they, and I do remember, it's not because they like didn't spend, or it's not because like, oh, they spent more on production. It's more because like they just didn't plan for the marketing. It's is what I remember it kind of being like.
Yeah.
So
it seems like
I'm talking about like after you calculate everything, how much was spent on what, not like how much did they assign to this. It's more just like, so
it seems like there is a script written for it, but there's a combo of E1 splitting from Hasbro, financial stuff in general, the fact that it like maybe barely made a profit, kind of things like that too, and there's been other stuff like, there was a live action series plans that they had at Paramount they scrapped, though apparently there is a live action in works at Netflix still. Again, whether that comes to light, we don't know. It's the same thing we just talked about, announcements and whether they will come out and stuff like that. And that's just live action D&D based series. So
okay, no, they did do a lot. Okay, what is a normal movie then? Hold on, I'm gonna look this up.
There's another article about this one. I'm gonna look up.
Yeah, 50% of the production cost is normal, so I was right about that.
Yeah.
So they did spend on the lower end. They did about 100 million on marketing, which is, normally it's 100 to like 150 million for marketing.
That's usually included in the budget, right? Or not?
Yeah, I think it is normally included in the budget. Well, no, production budget. Okay, yes, but their production budget was 150, and they spent 100 million. So they spent about So basically, break even point threshold needs to be around. So basically, they basically and their profit was about 200 thousand. Which is why it's like you generally want to get a lot more.
So it feels like the split is not making things great, and that split is making it that's harder to secure those finances, basically, rather than the split being the death knell of it. The split from E1 from Hasbro, that's not necessarily a problem. It's just making it harder to secure those finances to make the movie at this point in time.
Yeah, effectively they underspent their marketing budget by $50 million than they, what is normal. Because that's the thing. I hear, like, from what I understand, 50% is like the standard, but it can often go way higher. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
And that's just AI overview, so maybe something in that is wrong, but who knows? I'm not digging into this. Well, actually, wait, on Wikipedia, he might actually give me answers.
Trying to find.
So the thing that always confused me is the box office thing, because if I'm not mistaken, the box office is supposed to be like the first weekend.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's just all theatrical sales. When did it come out too? When did Honor Among Thieves come out?
2023? I think I just saw that.
Yeah. March 2023. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, this probably did suffer a little bit from post-COVID issues. Because, like, people were still... 2023 is at that point where a lot of people were still... were like, fine, but, there were still a lot of people who were still hesitant.
Yeah.
But they did underspend a little bit on budget. I do remember hearing someone talk about that. But yeah, they didn't make nearly enough back. Yeah, It's hard to say if that budget includes, because they say budget, but I don't know if that includes their marketing. So it could have been they spent 50,000 on, or 50 million on building and 100 million on marketing. I don't know. There's a lot here. I did watch a thing on this at one point, but I do not remember all the details.
Yeah. Yeah.
I probably shouldn't be going all into this.
Mm-hmm.
It did win Best Sound and Editing in a TV for at the Golden Trailer Awards. Okay, never mind.
So
Nothing crazy then.
we can move on to, of course, what's going on over at Paradox and Whitewolf. Because we have a look at some stuff from the new edition of Vampire the Masquerade. There is a playtest up on Demiplane. Let me link the playtest first here. I think I linked the we'll start with that. So if you want to sign up, that's the playtest. There's a player's packet and a storyteller's packet that are both there. There is the Paradox Interactive / World of Darkness / White Wolf's article that they talk about it. I have not had a chance to break down and look at that, but Momo had posted a picture of the character sheet from there up on our Discussing Tabletop Discord. I'm not gonna lie, it looks good. It looks good for what I want for a modern version of a World of Darkness character sheet. I don't mind all the different types of skills are combined together. I think that's fine. They're still dots, cool. Attributes are no longer dots. I think that's also fine, and we don't have these like 3 categories split off between things. I think that's fine. I'm not gonna lie, we didn't need that. It was a thing that was there, but it wasn't needed.
Yeah,
I think they still are. They are still physical, social, mental, but like they're split up a little bit more nicer. There looks like a humanity scare between mortal and monstrous. They've got resources which have dots, disciplines which have different powers for each level. That's kind of cool. I like that a little better. And then they just have like a lot of like the basic things like abilities on the side of the sheet here. Just looking at this, I'll kind of put this into there. It's just to see what it kind of looks like. It's not a very good picture of it, but I'm bringing it up on my phone here. And I don't know if it's got a good picture of it online, but it's probably in the playtest. So if you want to see it, it's in the playtest. But yeah, no. It seems like there's a bunch of short chord changes and reimaginings and stuff like that, and I'm just curious as to the directions and stuff it's going to be taking, overall. Yeah, it looks like Vitae, willpower, health of the merchant to single resources, a beast nature tracker, revamped the humanity scale. They turned the struggle to be between beast and human into a more active, personalized system. A quickening by rolling well and enhanced kind of thing like that. I'll just have to look at the mechanics of it and see how well it is and how well it compares to what they did in 5e, so that's the best I can say about that. But the playtest looks neat so far from just looking at it on the base level. I'd like to look at it more. That isn't the only thing that they kind of announced alongside of this. It looks like they call it in consideration, but I mean, it's like they're in early developments of 3 other systems that we weren't expecting, but, kind of half expecting. Mage, Changeling, and Vampire Dark Ages. Now I'm going to say, of those, Dark Ages is the one I'm like, yeah, you guys should have done that. Because, I'm not going to lie, I think I'm saying in, I think I said this, like, Dark Ages is the system that focuses a lot less on that, like, you and the politics of vampirism, and it's a lot more focusing on you being the monster and trying to fight against being the monster, because you're in medieval Europe, which is, I don't know how religious medieval Europe, it's medieval Europe, it's the Dark Ages, think about that and how those kind of systems was, with the Catholicism and all the Christianity, and even when it goes to Protestantism, because I don't know that I have to remember what type of era it is. We might be in the Protestant era by the time we get to Dark Ages when it's timelineless, because it's late Dark Ages, not early Dark Ages. But nonetheless, though, there's a lot of that, you versus the beast that it focuses on. So like the 5e system works better in Dark Ages because those really are the stories you're telling in those era, more or less. There's a little bit more of those. There's still some of that politics, but it is less of the focus in Dark Ages. I always felt like it was. Granted, someone could correct me on that one if they played a lot more Dark Ages, but I only read up a lot of the Dark Ages, kind of looked into some of the stuff. I didn't dive as deep into it as I did in the modern versions of World of Darkness, And I really looked into Vampire Dark Ages. And then Mage and Changeling. Changeling they could do decently. I don't know if they're going to. Because basically, I think I was thinking about this. Changeling is interesting because all the Changelings have a cultural basis for where they come from. But it's the ideas of dreams allows those changelings, those kith, to show up across the world. Like, like the African kiths aren't just in Africa. They will show up in other places in the world, especially ones where people of African descent have traveled to or been brought to. So the Caribbean, Americas, places in Europe, places in other parts of the world, where, honestly, unfortunately, the Africans, as part of the slave trade, traveled to. Kith, based upon African dreams, show up in those places. Or the ones that originate in South America show up in a lot of North America and other places like that too. And yes, European ones, because Europe did its thing around the world, means that's why they show up in a lot of places around the world. So Changeling can work very well that you could be of whatever nationality. It's just your dream originated from this part of the world, originally. That type of dream. It just spread because of name a lot of stuff that happened in the globalism over from the Dark Ages and on.
Okay, here I'm gonna tell you something right now. On Demiplane, the attributes are dots.
Ooh, I'm not rather than the character sheet. I'm fine with that too. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. I thought it was neat that there was numbers. I guess that was more like a showing off an example character sheet rather than a playtest character sheet.
Yeah, I mean they're probably still working on it.
Seeing what they want to do. I'll just have to dive deep into it. So, like, Changeling's the one that I'm like, yeah, you could probably do decent there. I don't know if you're going to, because, again, it's that track record between...
I do also want to tell you that it took me, like, the entire time I was clicking around on Demiplane trying to find their character sheet. Demiplane, I can see why people were annoyed about potentially having to use Demiplane over Archives of Nethys. It is not the most intuitive. And it's also very slow. Every time you click, it has to load.
It just ends up being that, like, I think of the things, because, like, what they've done with Werewolf, where they're kind of now backpedaling to the storyline being closer to what it was in original Werewolf the Apocalypse, it's a weird thing because it still is an alternate world, because everything's like an alternate history, but they're kind of like making it closer to what it was beforehand. They can't quite make it there, but they're like, we're making it feel more like it was rather than something completely different, with what we're adding in, which is kind of a weird place to be. But yeah, Changeling, I feel like they can probably pull off. Mage, I don't know what the hell they're going to do for Mage. It's like the image I saw was for consideration. I'm like, don't consider Mage. I'm sorry. Mage is a can of worms that, like, is difficult the best of times, and, like, M20 did a decent job of updating it. I don't feel like with their directions they're going to do it justice. Not that they couldn't, but I feel like it's going to be not done well. I'm just curious as to what they would do with it. And are they going to do, like, something that's a little bit more agnostic, like with Hunter? Are they going to do a continuation like Vampire? Or different entire world? Well, kind of different entire world, like they did with Werewolf. I don't know. I don't think they need to with Changeling. Changeling is less... Changeling has less eugenics and more classism, which, has its own problems, but that's, like, less awful. If it's less of, like, a uphill battle that you have. Werewolf you had to deal with eugenics and stuff like that, bloodlines and stuff like that. That's a problem that you have to... That's I understand why they just threw it out completely,
Yeah, I mean, I liked Chronicles of Darkness where anyone can be a werewolf at any time, and being born to werewolves doesn't guarantee. It makes you more likely, but not guaranteed, to be a werewolf.
See, that's a thing that they don't even have. It sounds like in the way that they do it
Yeah.
in the new, and that's the thing. It's if they switched it from what they have in traditional Werewolf the Apocalypse to the Forsaken version of it, I actually would have been fine with that. Where, like, yes, the bloodlines matter a lot less, but it still can be there. But anybody can be it, and it could be more like on the lines of, hey, people have intermixed for thousands upon thousands of years. Some of that, Jimmy over there who lives down the street could have some kind of ancestor werewolf from who knows where across the world he doesn't know about, because of the intermingling and stuff, a thousand years ago.
Did you awaken as a werewolf? Generally, the idea in Forsaken is that Luna themselves kind of unlocked it, in you or whatever, but for when they wanted you to do things.
Hi, Momo. Of course, yeah.
I do want to comment on Mage, though. I've always wanted to play Mage. I've never been able to get someone to run Mage.
It's the thing is, I've tried to run it before and it did not go well. That's the thing as I can say.
That's fair.
That's the reason that I'm very hesitant to try it again.
Could I run it myself? Yes, but around the time Chronicles finally got Mage together, I kind of stopped playing Chronicles of Darkness. So
it's also a thing of like, I know Joe loves Mage, but I heard what his storyteller did, and I'm like, that's not Mage. That's
what.
Joe has stories about what happened in a Mage game he played. And the thing is, it's like, it went above and beyond what Mage should be. I'm not saying it was a bad game or a bad role-playing game experience. In fact, it sounds like it was very fun. But if you're going to stick to like something that is like the spirit of what Mage is, he basically threw out half the system and played his own thing, It's Mage in name only, the adventure. They did things like awaken all of New York City, had Mage stock, declared war on the technocracy, things that I feel like are insane and extreme, and I'm like, that, it's like the people that like, you're grounded in basically a level of the rules. Yes, you can ignore rules, but like if you ground it in like a level of like, this is how the world should work, I'm like, that's not possible to do any of that shit, and it shouldn't be, because Mage is meant to cut you off from doing that shit, That's what Paradox is all about. The amount of Paradox should have had all those characters that were participating in it just explode,
I feel like, for what I've heard, a lot of Mage games kind of do ignore Paradox to a degree that they shouldn't. I feel like that's from like every story I've heard of people who play Mage.
You have to kind of like skirt the line. It's you.
Yeah, because you don't want to like screw over your players who are doing crazy stuff, but you do need to draw the line.
Yeah, and it sounds like their line was way farther than I think, 99% of us that would think about running Mage would go. And again, Joe sounded like he had a fun time. Everybody was in agreement with it. So it's like, it sounds like it was a fine role-playing game experience. It was just a bad Mage experience, if I would break that down, of like, yeah, no, that would never be sold as a Mage game. You played something, it sounds like you had fun, cool, but it's not Mage. You played something that looked a little bit like Mage. But again, that's the problem that you have when it comes to Mage, is like balancing that out. And exactly what you said is like, where you draw the line in goddamn Paradox. It's like, I don't know. Like the setting stuff, that can be worked with. We saw what Onyx Path was doing with a lot of the crafts and various groups in there, and like updating for the modern era that made them work. It can be done for a lot of them. But yeah, because a lot of them, they start from like a cultural basis and they recruit people from across the world and stuff like that. A lot of them either become global or they recruit anybody that's interested in that kind of stuff. I don't remember what their M20 name is, but it's like the people that were Knights Templar, they recruit people from like other places in the world. They're not just like European or like Christians or stuff like that too, but like they've expanded beyond that and kind of stuff like that when it came to the M20 timeline outside of that made them work as a group in the modern day, but again, I don't know if they're going to take that stuff at all. I've seen what they did with Werewolf. Again, most of these things, not the same problems Werewolf, but there is like still problems there. Will they ignore them? Or will they pull a vampire, where it could be just a nice upgrade? I don't know. So, and if they take if 6th edition looks really cool and they like make them based around more like 6th edition is going to be, cool, great. I'm going to be happy about those. I'll say that. But that's kind of where we are in World of Darkness. All right. One final little grouping of stuff, and I will put I'll put the thing here because Paizo said a bunch of stuff too and announced a bunch of stuff. There's an article that kind of goes
Funny
into depth
enough,
about
I
their
did not look that heavily into this.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I already knew Tech Core was coming out.
Yes, we've been waiting for that. And there's the Paizo article about what kind of some of the stuff they announced. But this is like a bigger thing. So yeah, 13 Omens, they showed off a bunch of the Apostle Magics coming out, that one. Bastion of Blasphemies, which is their hardcore horror things, Absalom Stations, and the Assault one. So we know Tech Corms. I'm interested because Cheliax's Infernal Inheritance is supposed to take place after the Hellfire Crisis and show us Cheliax's post-Hellfire Crisis. Now, here's the thing about the Hellfire Crisis. That wasn't that long ago, really. You know,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, well, the Hellfire Crisis was, if I recall, is what happened after God's Reign, when war kind of broke out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're getting the...
So I assume the Cheliax
I'm
is,
guessing... we just got Hellbreakers that also came out, the Adventure Path, which is part of the Hellfire Crisis.
Yeah.
So this is kind of weird because we're getting a Cheliax book, and it's coming out in October, which means it's got to be the canon, like, yeah, Cheliax is currently the 10th layer of hell currently, yeah. It's got to be the canon ending of whatever happened with Hellbreakers, you know?
Well, yeah, the Hellfire Crisis,
Or I guess it might be still going.
Adventure Path.
Yeah, it
Hold
might
on,
still
what's
be
the
going.
hell? What's the
Hellbreakers, yeah.
Called Pathfinder.
As the Hellfire dawns, the
Crisis,
spread of turmoil
Meta-
across FS and Nation of Iceguard, shaking up by Rebel Organization, Hellbreakers League. Yeah.
Hellcry. Yeah, the Hellbreakers Adventure Path. Yeah, the Hellbreakers Adventure Path is coming.
No, this release was in March of 2026.
Oh yeah, it says 2026. I'm dumb.
Yeah. Well, I guess it focuses more on Iceguard and what's going on there rather than what's really going on in Cheliax. So I guess it's focusing on one of the nations under Cheliax's things. So I guess it's kind of, they can kind of keep that a little bit loose. Maybe.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff. Hell's Destiny. I just need to look at the adventure paths. The Hellfire Crisis Hell's Destiny is coming soon. So they're not finished with it. No, that is released already. They released this month.
Yeah, that's released this month. So Hell's Destiny is just coming out. Bastion of Blasphemy is coming out afterwards there too. And I think those are all the ones that are well, Bash Please is not dealing with that kind of thing. But yeah. Because Hell's Destiny is dealing with Cheliax and Andron. But here's the thing is, with Hellfire Crisis making like Cheliax the 10th layer of hell kind of things like that, effectively, that I'm just curious on like what the hell is going on with this book here too, and how much is it going to be talking about this? Because it's supposed to be post Hellfire Crisis. How does the crisis end? I guess results in Andron, results in Iceguard are a little bit more open-ended. I guess a little bit, you know, because those are like neighbor nations. So we can kind of mention what was going on there, but we don't have to necessarily tell you the canon ending, maybe. I don't know. It's interesting directions. I'm just curious about it, you know. It's just a curiosity about what they're going to do with that. But I guess they'll come out, we'll see.
Is this okay? Why am I only seeing one product for Hellbreakers? Like,
I think it's just one
the
book.
Hellbreakers Adventure Path.
They're just putting out
Is
one
it just
book
one
now.
book?
Yes, they're just doing one books now.
It's a single book Adventure Path. Okay.
Yeah. They're basically, because they're doing just the 3 adventures, they're doing one single book that's all 3 adventures.
Okay, they're doing one. Okay, I get it now.
So rather than putting out,
I was like trying. Yeah.
They've switched over from the
So
three
they're
smaller
doing
books
one
to one
book.
book. Yeah.
So they're doing one book every 3 months instead of 3 books, one every month. So that used to be what it was.
So I'm curious, like, yeah, because again, like the book is supposed to take place after this crisis. I'm curious what the fuck's going to be happening there in the storyline. Man, it's curiosity. Next year, we're getting Unseen Worlds, which I don't know if we know a lot about. Adventure path called Walking Tigers, Legacy of the Forge. That's when we get the Starfinder beginner box. The Sagalands book, which I'm not going to lie, Sagaland book is actually something that I can kind of say I am looking forward to. As much as it is a repeatable place, they haven't really talked about the Sagalands since, like, early first edition. We haven't had stuff talk about, like, a lot of that region.
They did talk about it a little bit in
the World Guide,
early second edition as
Yeah.
part of the World Guide.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was still a general overview. So it will be nice to have a more down to earth thing in second edition.
It's a pretty big kind of region with a lot of interesting things in it that would be would be nice to kind of see a little bit better, because that's also like that's where Varisia is, so
yeah,
how many adventures have been in Varisia that we haven't talked about?
I mean, I like that they've been branching away from it a lot lately.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the Arcadia book, but and the Arcadia, Lower Garund, and
I just want a good Casmeron.
Yeah,
we've done regions of Casmeron, but there's a whole big area of that continent they haven't talked about. We've talked about their Vudra pretty heavily.
Yeah,
but that's about it. Kind of like you could do like the rest of Casmeron.
Yep. So no, my thoughts exactly as well. I want them to do overview books for all these locations.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because, like, let me put it this way. It's like they obviously know things because, like, for example, in Fist of the Ruby Phoenix, I'm, like, looking through and they talk about a group that's from Arcadia. And I'm just like, well, and another one that's from Vudra. And it's just like, you guys know about these things. Clearly it's in your master documents and stuff that you have.
It's the thing of, the amount of stuff we know about Arcadia comes from 2 main sources and a bunch of Pathfinder Society scenarios. One of them is Guns and Gears, because it talks about the goddamn Deadshot lands, which is a really awesome take on like magic gun Wild West. That's got like this, that's kind of cool. And then I did
not realize that was, that is in Arcadia. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And the other one is Ixpotl, which is in I think it was talked about at the end of the last first edition Adventure Path or something like that. It's the nation that's like, it's got an entire thing of one of the Adventure Path books, like at the back end of it talks all about the nation. And Ixpotl is like a pretty major place, in like kind of at the center of Arcadia and stuff too. And there's like colonies and stuff there too. So it's like there's places that are talked about, just not a lot.
Yeah. No, I'd love a Garund World Guide, a Kazroon World Guide, and an Arcadia World Guide.
And there's also that continent that, like, I can't remember the name of because it's their version of Australia that, like, no one remembers ever going to if they visit it.
Soruzan?
Soruzan, yeah. That would be cool to know what the fuck is going on there.
Yeah, I'm not sure they've done anything there. Part of me kind of hopes that area is kind of like a Wildlands kind of thing. I think that'd be cool.
I think I wouldn't mind if they keep it for a very long time or keep it to, like, the last thing they visit ever.
That one doesn't... I'm going to be honest, that one doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah, I agree.
The other ones, people are constantly from. They talk about it in passing. I just want an overview.
Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, hey, this is it. We know about... It's the thing of, like, we know things that are in these locations, but, like, we don't have maps of them. We don't have information about them. Like, Southern Grund, I can mention, like, half a dozen nations that are down there. I don't know where they are on the map. I know, like, a couple of them might be on, like, the eastern coastline of Southern Garund. Cool. Where? I don't know. Arcadia.
Yeah.
There's, like, an entire region where, like, I just dove into and did a video on the major nation that was in Arcadia. The
Actually, do you want to know why I want a Southern Garund book? I will be honest. I want Wyverns in 2E.
That'd be cool. That'd be nice too. I agree with that. Brassland. Brassland was the people that conquered Arcadia, and their empire basically ended up a combination of some rebellions and Earthfall. But basically, they were they were kind of like, they effectively were very like Aztec coded. It looks like, because they built a lot of step pyramids and stuff like that, and a lot of their culture has a major influence. And basically, yes, their empire was falling, but basically, Earthfall meant that their empire fell, and then all of Arcadia basically got together and worked together, these like shattered nations, to survive Earthfall. And that's like an amazing thing. That's why like there hasn't been a lot of war or conflict. A lot of these nations get together and survive for the last like 10,000 years, because they went through a planetary crisis together. And the nation of Brassland is still there. It's not the empire it once was, but it's still there. And it's like we just know so little about it. And it's like, it sounds so cool. There's like people that conquered a continent and fell, and they still have the core of their empire there. I'd like to know what the modern version of the nation is, and like their history connection to it.
Yeah. And the last thing that we didn't mention is the galactic ancestries, which is good. They need to have all the.
Yeah.
Like, I still think they need an ancestry builder book, but that's, when they'll do that.
So there's some things here that I'm curious what the books next year that we have some names of. Like Saga Land's easy to know what it is. Other ones are like, I don't know what Unseen Worlds are. It was previously announced. I think we've heard about it. I don't remember which one that was. I have to look that up. Previously announced. Now I'm curious because I freaking forgot. Oh, that's like the spirit book and stuff like that. That's interesting.
Got it. Maybe they'll talk about like kind of the ethereal or whatever it's called now.
Yeah, and they might explore. There might be a couple locations or places they might talk about. So we might visit some places in some of those places in the world, but it's small visits, But cool, and with more areas we still learn about them. I'm fine with that. It's like, oh hey, there's this spiritual place in Arcadia, or the spiritual place in Southern Garund, or the spiritual place in Casmarun, or somewhere else that we're diving a little deep, or even like there's a place in TNZ they mentioned and they're diving deeper, like the Forest Spirits. There's like a couple pages on it. Give me 10 pages on it. That'd be cool. I'd be fine with that. It's an interesting sounding place.
Yep. Yeah, I personally just would really like overviews of other continents, and then they can start to dive into individual countries as they do books and stuff. I just think the overview for their world, because it's so fleshed out at this point that even if it's not mentioned, it still has content,
Yes, they've done a lot of stuff. Well, there's still more to talk about, but no big topics now that we've hit those three. Oh, sorry, I forgot to Super Paizo. First off, we're getting an interesting crossover of figures and magic cards, because we're still getting more Marvel magic cards. They're basically, Hasbro's doing, Hasbro Pulse has announced they're doing a Magic the Gathering and Marvel Legends series crossovers that are going to have some magic cards in it, which I don't know if it's going to be unique art or unique cards. We don't know yet. That's a question we don't have an answer for. So, I mean, if it's just like promo cards, I'm a lot more fine with it than if it was like, unique things, but it's interesting. We'll see what it is. This is an interesting one. I don't know what it means for the future, but Games Workshop is putting out a Cities of Sigmar miniatures blind boxes. So you don't know what character you're going to get in there. It's a Age of Sigmar, because I guess it's Cities of Sigmar. But Cities of Sigmar, I know, is one of these sub games. It's not one of the main games, as I recall, because Momo was talking about it, I think. So it's not like they've done it before. They sold poorly. So I guess it's to see if doing it again will be any better.
I hope it sells poorly, because I hate gacha mechanics and things like this.
Yeah.
Or gacha products. And in a game like Warhammer, I wouldn't be surprised if they sell poorly.
Yeah. Even if it's for like one of these smaller games, like the city or like something like that, rather than like one of the bigger games or something like that. I don't know. Cities of Sigmar is a faction. Oh. Oh, so it's called Warhammer Heroes Cities of Sigmar.
I love having to buy 10, like, I'm just speaking from, like, if I were someone who played this, it's like, I love buying 10 boxes to get the one character I want for my game, for my army.
Yeah.
You know, especially when when each of them are like, you know, like $40 or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But that's a thing there too. And the last thing I've got, which I'm not going to lie, I think we've talked for quite a while here. We might just do our outros and save the topic for next week.
That is honestly fair.
There's
a lot to discuss this week.
Yeah, with Gencon.
With two conventions, yeah.
We'll see how big the announcements over the rest of the weekend are. I think they've had most of the major ones, so there might be still some more. But basically, I wanted to take a couple different weeks diving into this idea of the crossover kind of thing, especially D&D's universes beyond crossover they've already had is like an interesting topic for TTRPGs and like kind of explore that in a lot of ways. Just to kind of talk about, especially like on the mechanical side, that kind of thing. Anyway, and then also maybe explore it for like other tabletop stuff in a different week. Last thing is the Cyberpunk Hunted board game. So yes, it's going to release in September 2026. I don't know if we mentioned it. We mentioned a couple different things related to stuff like this. I don't know.
Definitely came up. I just don't know how far along it was when we mentioned it.
I think we mentioned it was being worked on, and now we have a date for it being released. So if you're a fan of the Edge Runners series, this is a good thing to get into for that. And it's still Cyberpunk's world, so it's another one to dive into there. So, yes. All right, well, we'll skip out on this one. I'll save this TTRPG crossovers for next week, and we'll turn to what we played this week because it was a week and we got a bunch to talk about. Joseph's game. Joseph's game.
Yeah. Do you know what? I still want to know. I still don't know which version of him were we fighting. Were we fighting him
Okay. So here's what happened. At the end of the week before, the last time he played, we basically defeated the amalgam of all his attempted clones because they tried to clone him to make one that would be able to like better suit his soul or something, his original body couldn't connect with his mind or something, I guess is what it was. They wanted to come up with a clone that maybe could be a vessel for his soul. It's what I can only assume is what they were trying to do.
Honestly, it wasn't very clear, and I think that's whatever.
This is as clear as I can get from it. Yes, it wasn't very clear. Okay. The original body was sent to fight the Lady of Pain, apparently defeated her, but Sigil's now unstable and going to collapse because of it. I guess is what's going on. Time Dragon showed up to help us. So rather than actually helping us, became a MacGuffin.
The lady was defeated. That's why everything's crumbling.
Yes. Which, MacGuffin stuff. I don't know how he who was defeated by the lady before would win this time. I don't know how him without his mind would be more powerful when...
Did they get his mind back? That wasn't very clear. I feel like they did that. No, because that's what they needed.
That
all
was
the
the
pieces
ritual,
for.
and we didn't give them all we fixed. We gave them fake ones, which wouldn't work. We gave them the bad ones, and we have the real ones, and we're using the ritual. So I don't know what happened. Have that happen? Maybe they found some other way or some shit. I don't know.
I think they found another way. I think that's what it was supposed to be.
Either way, it's not very well told, and it's just confusing, which can be fine, but it's become time travel shenanigans, which it's just a little much for me. I'm going to say it here.
Doesn't bother me as much as it bothers Tantus, but he gave us two choices. Well, he gave us three choices, and I pointed out there's a fourth one, but that's a different issue.
So here's the choices. The Time Dragon can sacrifice itself and basically undo stuff enough for us to do things and basically finish the ritual, etc., etc. But in doing so, it's removed from all history. So basically it has to erase itself. So even stuff it has done or will do, it will kind of go away with. Kind of a terrible thing for a Time Dragon. Time Dragon itself can't interfere very well. It could make a slowdown bubble for the ritual, but that won't be enough to complete in time before Sigil collapses.
Yeah, basically the idea was like it could sacrifice itself to accelerate time around the ritual to finish it. But but it can also kind of protect it during the time while we do our thing to go back in time and stop this.
Yeah. It sounds like it could naturally accelerate it a little bit, but enough for it to be done in time is basically what it would have to have, like a very extreme thing.
Well,
like that.
Yeah, right now it's just placed out of time, and that's what it's going to do. But like to accelerate it would kill it is what is my headcanon. I honestly don't think Joe thought it through that much, but that's my headcanon.
It sounds fine. As fine as anything else because it's all of a headache, you know.
But then we were given so that's one option that we decided, nah, we don't want to kill the time dragon.
Yes. Well, the time dragon can send us back in time. Now, would it send us back in time a little bit so that we could go stop and save the Lady of Pain? No. We have to go back in time and completely change history.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is that this would change history so fucking much.
And we can either go back 4,000 years, at the time when he basically was okay, so we can go back 8,000 years and prevent him from listening to his self coming back in time, because I don't think his self technically comes back in time. I think his self talks to himself back in time or communicates with himself back in time in order to teach him magic that he goes down the path of becoming a supervillain, basically. You know, it's the self-fulfilling prophecy. I send a message back in time to myself, teach myself what I need to know to become the supervillain. Because I don't think he physically goes back in time. It's like a spiritual or mental thing that does it, you know. But it still is, he influences time to make himself. Or we can hit him 4,000 years ago when he first would have been like attacking the Lady of Pain and stop him there, so he doesn't end up in the thing and it doesn't go to there. Either way, just fucks with time completely. And I basically said, look, one of those times fucks with time less because it's 4,000 years afterwards. Let's do that one where we have to fight the god.
Okay, so we're doing the one where we're fighting him before he decides to fight the Lady of Pain. Got it.
Yes, because it will probably dick with time less. And I said, look, there's still a chance we could still convince him not to do this. Basically, we prevent him with the facts like, hey, we are from a future where your actions here have a domino effect that destroys the multiverse in halfway. You know, you are going to fail here. You do not have the strength here. You will never have the strength here. The Lady of Pain is too powerful. You know, and if you decide, we're going to weaken you now or warn her, you know, you basically can give up this entire ambition, or you can choose to lose here and then destroy all of reality. Because basically your minions are going to try to bring you back, and in doing so, destroy all of reality. We came back in time to stop that.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so
I don't know if that convinced him, but we might have to fight him.
Well, Joe said we're probably going to fight him because that's basically the option we picked, is the fight option.
We're probably going to fight him because Joe says it's a fight option, and we don't have the option to talk to him.
The thing that annoys me is that we are low on resources, so...
Oh yeah, no, I am just so...
And I don't... Joe has been doing really big fights, and I don't know if I trust him to make the fight easier for us with our lower resources.
Oh no, and I did not... Again, I didn't like the last big fight. I understood the last big fight. It was an interesting big fight. I didn't like it on a more like it was bad for my character kind of level. But I didn't think it was a bad big fight. Not like what's her name? Is it God? I'm forgetting. Shemeshka. That was just a bad fight.
See, I hated Shemeshka more, but that's because I was directly that's the thing. You were directly screwed over in this fight, in this last fight. I was directly screwed over in the Shemeshka fight. Even though you were still screwed over in the Shemeshka fight, it was much more incidental.
Yes, the Shemeshka fight, I just couldn't do anything the entire time. So it was like I wasn't trying to do anything, you know. So it was like I was there, which was bad in of itself. But you were being canceled, which is differently, you know. There's a difference between not doing something and having what you're doing canceled, and that's what I got a lot of. My stuff canceled. Yep.
So. No, it feels bad to have that happen. It's like, I don't mind the legendary resistances, but but also it's like you were down, so I would, because you were confused. And so I was the only one ever able to cast the spells, meaning I was the only one getting canceled.
So yeah.
I mean, it helps. Yeah. So. And because of the way it worked, it's like I kept getting poisoned, meaning I had disadvantage on everything because their counterspell poisons you. So not only was I getting canceled, I was being like extra double punished. Ugh.
Yep. 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 Yep.
This one, yeah, no, I agree though that you were screwed over a lot more in this one than I was.
Anyway, so I don't understand the time. Like the time dragon doing minor time
I'm
stuff.
still
Like
very confused.
Again, it is like I think the need to travel back 4,000 or 8,000 years is like it's just mind-boggling. And what the fuck are the repercussions on that one? Yes, the ritual still happen because it's outside of time. Good for them. It's a bunch of people just ripped from time who might have more versions of themselves. What about us with more versions of ourselves when we return to the future? What happens to us? It's sort of like, I don't want this. Why are you doing this to us? This is awful.
If you think about it, without this group doing this, then we would never have been thrown into this adventure. So, and they said that, oh no, you guys will continue to exist, but because you'll be now outside of time because you're traveling back in time. I'm like, okay, cool.
I'm like, what's the point then? Because I think the thing is, like, Joe doesn't recognize that removes all of Bander's motivation completely. My motivation was to get back home to our homeland and get back to my life.
Yeah.
What do I have then? I've hated Sigil because, like, he has made Sigil the least appealing for my character. I think Sigil's pretty neat, but the stuff we've been through has been all completely negative.
I mean, yeah, because Bander likes he did like the bureaucracy. He likes the rules, but he's been annoyed because every person who should be following the rules in Sigil and outside of it has just not been.
Or taking it to like extremes, which are like insane. Like the too much law, like with stuff with access is like, ooh, there's a little too much for me. It's like I like my bureaucracy, I like my order, but I like it to be like reasonable. Where like I feel like Bander is really like more like if you said alignment neutral good that leans towards lawful. He likes law, but he knows when things need to bend for the good of the people, for things like here. He sticks to the law as much as possible. He tries to use the system to help people, like that. Like
he's good lawful rather than lawful good.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, like, he's been driven more and more away from that good thing because we've been just exposed to, like, awful things and also, like, just the mess of it all, too. It's just been...
I mean, when, those claiming to do good have just been like, yeah, no, this is how things work. This is how things are supposed to work, and I'm going to use it to screw you over. It's like, no, that's not how that's supposed to work. Yes, it is. In fact, ask this guy, ask this neutral guy. He agrees. Yes, I agree. That's kind of how it's been. It's just like, okay, so everyone's an idiot.
It's been quite a mess, I think, I don't know how the game is going to end. I'm not confident in it ending very well, especially like I think
it'll end fine.
Here's the thing. I don't think it will. I don't think it's going to be Grinding Gears ending. Grinding Gears ending was fine. I think it's not going to be a good ending. I don't think it'll be a bad ending. I think it'll end it decently. But I don't think... Here's the thing. I think it'll be a good ending for the story. It'll be a bad ending for our characters. Well...
It'll be a bad ending for Bander.
For Bander, definitely. For like... I feel like Bander definitely is just going to be a bad ending. For your character... I can see your character working with whatever's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if my character, if he never goes home and can spend the rest of his life researching weird things across the plains, he'd be happy.
Yeah.
6 already got his end. Yulin, we haven't touched on his story at all.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I don't know Yulin's
If you remember,
story.
his whole story was that he had parents who kept birthing monsters.
Yeah, we didn't touch his story at all. Yeah, you're right. I feel bad about that too. It's like he had a story there.
It's just gone.
Yeah, like I think we really only touched on 6's story out of all of us. Because you and I kind of had stories, but we lost them when we traveled the plains. When we went to Sigil, our stories kind of disappeared. And
to be fair, mine was always moving forward. It was never like my character was trying to find his place. That was kind of his story.
I think,
He was kind of always an outcast, and he's trying to find his place. So
yeah,
his has progressed.
yes, yours progressed because it was very easy and simple. I think
Yeah.
Joe had a story for me, but he didn't present it very well. The idea that dwarves were very planar creatures or stuff like that, and had this origin connecting with the plane of Earth and stuff like that, and that'd be an interesting thing to explore. Like,
It's like he
cool.
tried to play into like, you have an ancestry that's tied to the plains, and like it's like, okay, cool, but that's not what Bander wants. He doesn't want to explore his history. He wants to.
You could present a reason to do that. You never did.
Yeah.
You basically said,
Yeah.
this is a thing, enjoy it, without presenting a reason why I should enjoy it. You know, he never did that. And I think that's the thing too. Is I think if he presented it well enough, Bander would have liked that, but he never did, you know? And that's the thing, is like, I never felt like he even tried to do that. He just threw it there in my face and was like, here's your thing.
Yep.
So, you know, yeah, I think 6 will have an okay ending. You'll have a good ending because your character. I think Yulin will have an ending because we don't know what Yulin's ending is, and Bander's gonna have a bad ending. You know.
I mean, Yulin's going to be neutral just because he didn't really care. Like, I just feel like he never really cared too much about his backstory and just kind of played, you know? So it's like,
Yeah,
it was kind of one of those.
I feel like he's had
as
a
a
good
player.
time, but I think he's been like not 100% checked into everything because it's been so long, and the 2 weeks thing is a hard thing. I have to say, like, you know.
Yeah, well, he's checked in enough. I just don't think he's very much a beer and pretzels player where he just kind of likes to hang out and play.
Yeah, which is fine. You know. You
Yeah.
don't have to have a. deep
No, I have
backstory.
nothing against that.
Again, like, I think if presented correctly, I don't think Bander needed a backstory kind of thing like that too. It's just that, like, if he gave a good reason, other than you're going to save your plane and the multiverse to be here and to do stuff, because he threw us into that right away. You know, he threw us
Yeah.
into, we have to save the multiverse right away, and I'm like, well, fuck, I guess we have to do that.
I mean, well, that's the thing. I feel like that storyline could have been okay with Bander, but the problem is every step of the way, like, Bander wanted to have the choice to do that, but every step of the way, Joe has been forcing it on us, and that's, I feel like, a big problem with Bander's character. It's like, we are teleported because this one guy did something stupid. We are told to go over here because that's your job. We are, you know,
We're told to
we
do
are
this
now
because we
stuck
can't
here and we
rely on
have to follow
anybody
this.
else. You know.
Yeah. Everyone else has been trying to screw us over, so we have to rely on this one person. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pharaoh.
And again, like, I felt like I did not mind Pharaoh fully. You know, Pharaoh I think was a fine character. I think my character saw her originally as an idiot, but she earned her trust back. You know, sort of like, you know, it's like, because again she led us into like a deadly trap to begin with, and I'm like, why the fuck didn't you know about this? And then I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
you know, eventually by the end I was a bit before she like passed away, and I've been like, hey, look, you know, I see that, you know, you made a mistake early on. You didn't know what you were doing as much like that. You were thrown into a lot of shit yourself, you know, like that. Maybe you hadn't had to deal with them. You hadn't ate with them. You didn't understand the threat. But I'm like, you should really learn about this before allowing other people to get to a problem. You know, it's sort of like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I certainly was better with her. She grew as a character. Not like that she had a lot of character, but I think it grew in her characters too.
Yeah. I will say, actually, there's one aspect to Hedwig's backstory that is not going to be addressed and was never addressed, and that is the whole ties to the Beastlands. Or honestly, there is a thing about where his ancestry is from, because his like great grandma was like someone who tried to go looking for the font of all knowledge on the Beastlands. Got cursed to be a bird and then ended up in Mystara. So there is that kind of aspect. It'd be interesting to find out where all that came from, but it's not like integral to the character. It was just something that Joe could have worked with, but he didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think we've been railroaded so many times. I think that's the problem. You're right. We should have been given a lot more of the options of taking the route. You know, it should have been the correct choice, but we should have been given that option. And I think that would have worked a lot better for Bander, you know, certainly speaking.
Yeah, Joe needs to learn how to do the illusion of choice better, where you give 3 options that all eventually lead to the same place.
Yes. It's you can't force your players, or it's not going to work very well.
I mean, you can with the right players and characters.
Yes.
Problem is it was just, yeah.
There has to be good reason behind everything there too. Sort of like, you know, anyway. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I gotta be honest, we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
I had the Monday game run by Lightning, because Lightning and Momo are taking turns. It was Lightning's week. We basically ended up defeating these dragon people and driving them off the ruined dragon planet, or ruined planet. We basically got a reward from a dragon that was basically like, hey, these draconic people are causing trouble because they're not like full-blooded dragons. They were like, you know, dragon humanoids, maybe half dragons or something like that, you know, and causing trouble. And the actual dragon wanted them kind of like either killed or driven off the planet. We did that. We also then traveled to another planet, salvaged a bunch of stuff, and ended up on the planet, which is this like serpent world, like serpent people world, where like apparently some kind of disaster hit their planet. They're living in these domes. We found one of the domes we could land in after salvaging in the atmosphere. And we're supposed to find something out in the wastes, basically, now. So we're trading with them with some of our salvage for, like, some material that could allow us to survive in the wastes. So, it's interesting.
Okay.
We did talk about maybe getting a new ship from the, like, see if one of the wreckage up in space is salvageable to repair, rather than just take stuff from. Because our ship is, like, kind of like a piece of crap, you know, that we just have. That we inherited. Well, the other players inherited because I was saved by them. Basically, I've been hanging out with them. You know, it's interesting where it's going. And then we continued the adventures in Hell's Rebels, where we've finished securing the council's vote. Because basically, there's like 2 things we have to do in order to form a new country. Number 1, we bring together this council and have them vote of a governor to control the capital of the new country, basically, is what it is. To basically leader. Cool. We needed all members of this council from the original, like, contract. We found all the people that could represent all the original members. Cool. I think we gave them a couple options to vote for. I think we're supporting, like, I forget which one we're supporting. I don't know enough of the characters, because, again, I came in, like, after that. I'm only here for a few weeks, you know, at this point in time. So to tell you which of the ones we went for the one that the players support. You know, I'm like, cool, great, vote for that guy or girl. But now we learned that the other regions of the nation, we have to get their support to like form the new nation. And so we're going to these various places and basically making deals with them to do that. And we found out that we went to the forest first because we needed to get something from the forest. Oh, I remember. The last person for the council, we're getting them something from the forest to basically sweeten the pot for that person. Basically, we're bribing them. We're getting something from the forest for them also. Cool. But while we're there, we're dealing with the fact that the forest has 2 groups there. Evil hags and Strix, who hate people. We've met with the Strix, and we're basically going to help them kill the hags so that they control the forest and basically like leave them on their own, you know. And that's where we're at. And then we have to go to the other places and make deals with them, and then we'll unite a country together to, you know, be the new nation that's there rebelling from Cheliax. Cool. We didn't have my game because I didn't have internet.
Yep.
Yeah,
it died that day.
Died Tuesday night. It died like right when we were ending. Basically, as people were talking about ending and finishing up, everything went out. Yeah. Perfect timing. Anyway, we did talk about I did bring up maybe doing on Thursday, but like, you know, we weren't gonna have people. And it sounds like we might not have everybody next Wednesday anyway. Joe might not be able to join.
We will not have Joe, but he did say go ahead and have fun without me.
Yeah, he said he probably wouldn't be free. So maybe there's luck that he gets free. Probably not, but you know, it's that entire thing of the, you know, 5%.
He's probably gonna be glued to the bathroom.
Sounds like he's getting some kind of like, you know, issue. Like
he's getting a colonoscopy on Thursday. And I don't know if you have to like drink this stuff.
Yes, you do. You have to drink the stuff
like
that
clear your entire bowels.
Yeah. Yep. I have not reached that age yet, thankfully, but you know, in a couple of years, I might have to start getting those because there were some colon cancer in my family on my mom's side. So it's something I'm going to have to start getting done. So I'm not looking forward to it.
You might have to get it done early because of family stuff.
Well, that's why we have to start getting them, and like that's why, like, you know, around like there will be an age where I'll start getting into those. You know, every like you know number of years. Look after it.
I had a game today.
You did have a game today.
Unless you played games with people on like Thursday or Friday.
No.
On Thursday.
Nothing Thursday. I basically like just used Thursdays a day to catch up on stuff. I was like, I'm not gonna stream or try to push things. I'm just gonna catch up on stuff.
Understandable. Yeah, I had a game today. I started Insane, and that was a good chunk of the game for me. Insane is just confusion, but it doesn't end without stuff. Thankfully, they had a staff that can cure insanity.
That's good. So I at least had something.
And they used it when they could. And then we basically, after that, we cleared the entire the rest of the final castle or tower. And then afterwards, we were kind of sorting loot to split between us and the Dwarven army, Dwarven state, or whatever. And I found an auto gnome head, which I will probably be able to repair and figure out what the hell's going on with that.
Cool.
That's about it. Like I said, it was I like everyone else in the entire combat was like out of spells, and then you had me who immediately got hit by a spell that did 1 damage every round, meaning I couldn't cast spells. Because if you take any damage in 2e, you lose your spell that you're trying to cast. So by the time I got that off, and then I was like, it took 2 turns to try. I took 2 turns to try and get away from that. But you know, my party who wasn't casting spells decided not to be the target, and then I got left with it. And then this was before, and so it's like I just kept taking damage, and then I finally got rid of that. But then I was really low on health, so I got away by jumping down a hole in the middle of the tower, and I was able to, you know. And then I drank a potion that was a cure, like a cure superior wounds potion, basically, which would have healed me right back up to full, gotten me right back into the fight. But of course, it was cursed and gave me insanity, and so it's like just the entire combat, I'm just all like on the back foot. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I literally wasn't able to do anything. I ended with almost all my spell slots left, even though I had like 10 plans to like deal with things.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Sounds
so
like
that
a
was
mess.
like, yeah, 2 games I've been like kind of just really royally screwed over. It wasn't too bad though. Like honestly, that happens in 2e. I mean, if you remember like 3, like, you know, in Pathfinder and 3.5, where it's all like, you know, spells last for like a minute, you know, or whatever. It's like, you know, savers suck, and if you don't save, you are just out of combat for the rest of combat. You know, those kind of spells. No. Those are a lot more common in 2e, even more so.
2e is a system that is based upon brutality, and you will know about it. It's not necessarily. Yeah. It's brutal but fair, I will tell you, is what it is, because it's you understand everything that's going to happen, and that's going to happen, and technically speaking, there are plenty of these things you could use upon your enemies too. So it's brutal but fair.
I mean, again, 2e is all about planning ahead, and that's the thing. I planned ahead. I had like 2 contingencies planned, but none of them. I didn't know the spell existed. I didn't know there was a spell that just did 1 damage every round. It was like biting spiders just crawled over me. It did like 1 damage every round, which is fine, you know, unless I'm like level 1, that's not going to kill me, but it prevented me from casting spells. And the problem is, I am a wizard, meaning I can't wear armor if I'm casting, like in 2e, in AD&D 2e, you just can't cast can't cast spells if you're wearing armor.
Yep.
There's no like failure chance, you just can't. Meaning I rely on spells like shield, which works differently in this game, but it just gives you an armor class. And like, but I couldn't cast it because I backstab someone from stealth. You know, I didn't want a shimmering force field in front of me while I was sneaking around. But then my next turn, I was going to cast shield, and before I even can, I get hit with this spell, and it's just like great. And so I was just, and then I got hit a bunch because like I didn't have AC, and so I literally smashed an acid flask on myself to get rid of the spiders. The GM allowed that, even though it was a spell. um, he's usually like, hey, you're spending resources to get rid of something. I'm down with that. Yeah. I also took a bunch of damage because I splashed acid all over myself. So, you know, it's a fair trade.
You also just melted yourself a little bit, you know?
And then I jumped into a pit to get away from the enemies and then cast Featherfall midair. That's how that's how I didn't die, at least. It's just crazy. It was a crazy fight. It's just, as far as my contribution went, it was pretty much 0 outside of the initial backstab, which did help a lot because it helped us kill their most powerful person very quickly. But
sounds just a little crazy.
It was. Yeah, I got a lot of PNGs cut out while I was wandering around insane.
Fun. Guess that's it for this week. For what we did. Yeah. I guess that's it for today. Thanks, Warren, for joining me.
Yeah, I'm DiamondWyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm or at DiamondWyrm on Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Twitch. And next stream should be tomorrow at 10:30 a.m.
Hi, 10th Hour Dracovin. I'll probably be live on Tuesday. I'll let people know what timing is. I'm going to try earlier on Tuesday to figure out my schedule for those days now. It's just a matter of coming up with a better schedule. You know, that's kind of what it is. I just have to figure out a better schedule. And hopefully it'll be a normal week and no craziness this week. I can only say hopefully so many times, but I'll say it. Hopefully.
Don't worry, I'll send all the bad vibes your way.
No more like things falling apart at a moment's notice, you know, or like, you know, stuff falling down and breaking things, you know, just a little bit more easy, less chaos, hopefully. Make sure to join, of course, for Shadows Last Law on Wednesday, back that week, continuing the adventures there, and of course join us again next week for Saturday, for hopefully Worm will be able to join me, or maybe Momo that will be able to join that week. Anyway, everybody have a great rest of your Saturday, rest of your weekend, and until the next time, I say to you all, bye-bye, farewell.
Bye.